in my market now with transparency, DoorDash is very different here. Now,
Mm-hmm.
like earn by time it still says it there, but it has never, like it's barely ever anyway, but it never has the lock off it anymore, because now that we're transparent, there's a lot of weird things happening. Like I can schedule, anytime I want. Anybody with like 30, 40, 20% AR can now schedule any day they want, as long as it's 48 hours out. You can schedule 9 to 9:30, 10 to 10:30, 11 to 11:30, like exactly like a top dasher or a platinum tier dasher would do. And they don't need to schedule, but you know how they still do. They do those half-hour increments in case
Yes.
you end one that you have the next one. Well, you can do that, but why? Because now what they just do is show the whole map as light pink all the time. So even better or worse, I can just dash anytime I want now for a few weeks after the transparency laws, or about a month. They tried, okay, you got to get to the, you got to schedule. And even, you can't schedule till whatever it is at night. But if you're 50% or above, you can schedule at 3 p.m. And then once you hit 70% or above tier, you can go dash now anytime you want. But even the 50% where you can schedule at 3 p.m. here anyway, Mountain Time, for the longest day out, you're not getting the jump that in many states and many markets that don't have the transparency law, you're not getting that jump on people, because even if I'm 50% or above and I'm like, 3 p.m., I'm going to schedule all my stuff. When it comes around to the common people, just to anybody who's on DoorDash, it doesn't matter. They still are going to be able to pick every slot. And I'm telling you, they don't have a limit on the slots anymore. And here's my thing. Why would they? Now they're just slowly, deceitfully covering it up, because there's nothing left that they have over the driver here. It's not perfect, but these transparency laws, I would argue with pretty much anybody. I know some people are like, well, it's not perfect in Colorado. Well, nothing's perfect anywhere. And I'm not just talking about gig economy. Nothing's perfect anywhere. So, I mean, like, no, it's not perfect, but it's way closer to right than anything else going on in this country. And DoorDash and all these companies spent more fighting this. I mean, take Prop 22 out of the equation, but all the other things, they spent more on this and hiding. They care more about hiding details than they do about negotiating price for drivers. That amazes me.
That brings me to Para, the time when Para came.
Yep.
I mean, we have the bots, we have the accounts, we have all this situation with the illegal accounts, and then Para show up and they move all the machine to defeat Para, which convey the message: we do know things, we can change things. It's just that this is what matters, and this, it doesn't matter for us. It's just no transparency, but keep the bots, keep the accounts, and yeah, you can see that priority of the company, of the company.
So a few things. Always when Luis is on, we always get into some pretty good stuff, and we always cross connect because he's got his stuff going on, I got my stuff going on. But him and I have known each other for some years now, and we've been fighting the good fight. And I know we both did. If you guys didn't see it, I think it's on the Rideshare Guy channel, but there's a piece that Chris edited that's Luis and I, and then there's our 2 full interviews with Chris. It just happened to be Luis and I that interviewed with Chris, and we were talking. I mean, that piece didn't come. It came out maybe 3-4 weeks ago, but if I remember right, we recorded it like 2 or 3 months ago. It just took Chris a minute to edit it, and he's been busy.
I had a different studio in the piece because I completely changed the studio, so you can see the time that the interview was recorded.
But so the point is that now this is really like lividly upsetting me, because maybe a lot of you are going to say, well, what'd you expect? That's just the media. Well, okay, it is. And I deal with the media a lot. Luis deals with media. We talk to these people and we know how they operate. We know, look, it's when I tell people things and I can even prove it, and if they don't run an article on it, it's not them. Maybe sometimes it is. Maybe there's some reporters who have a little bias or whatever of their own, but it's not them. It's, did the information I provided them align to be in an article that does not affect any of the supporters of that newspaper or news outlet? So if DoorDash is a supporter of XYZ News, and I talk to XYZ News, and even if I get a reporter who isn't familiar with that partnership and thinks, man, I got the story of life here, he just told me about all these transparency lies, goes back to the editor, he hands it to him, and he says, we can't run this because we're a partnership with DoorDash.
And that's why, as a YouTuber, we cannot accept $1 from the companies, and they will try to pay. And you know that is truth,
right?
In fact, I received an offer, and immediately I called Steve and I told him, Steve, this company is calling me to pay me, and of course I'm not gonna accept that. But what's your take on that? And Steve told me, try to get an interview with them. That is a good. And I tried to do it, and they didn't accept. But yeah, good point, that one that you're bringing.
Yeah, I mean, look at and that's it's kind of like those same kind of techniques you go into a job interview with. Like if you're going for a W-2, it's you need to be ready to flip a question on somebody. And so if DoorDash, when they approached Luis and said, hey, why don't you plug us, even if the money seems good or whatever it might have been, he's better off not doing it because that money is short-sighted as can be.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's okay, here's some money. Okay. Now there's on the internet, which is forever, there's Luis saying DoorDash is a good company.
Yeah.
So instead, I mean, the options kind of are, does he write them back and say, no, I would never do this with you, or sure, let's talk, or just not respond? I don't think any of those are the right options. I think the right option was to say, hey, you know what? Let's do an interview and then see how that goes. And if we're
and
all
I will do it for free.
That,
I will do it for free.
Right. I'll do the interview for free. And if that goes well, then we can discuss past there, even if he's sure he's not going to discuss, because it speaks volumes when a company wants to do something with you and won't even speak about their company with you.
Which bring me, and I know this is not in the agenda of today,
That's
but brings me to the situation with Washington and the no tax on tips situation. DoorDash trying to bring or take drivers to Washington to support the no tax on tips situation. But the question is, what is okay? And I don't know what's your take on that, but okay, let's say that it's good, no tax on tip. Okay, it sounds great. Of course, it sounds amazing. But what is DoorDash going to do, or Uber is going to do with the app after that is approved?